This happened around Christmas. I live alone with my daughter in a rather secluded and heavily wooded area. We only have a handful of neighbors, mostly people that live in cottage type of houses like us. I work from home, so I only leave the property to drop off or pick up my daughter, and of course for groceries and stuff like that. Not much goes on in the area, which is why I allow my daughter to play in the woods with her friends nearby, as long as she comes home before the curfew I set out for her. One evening, however, something went wrong. My daughter wasn't answering my calls or texts. I was worried as hell. After the recent snowfall, I suspected her and her friends were just trying to push their luck with the curfew. I sat out on the front porch, half pissed off and half worried to death, waiting for her to come home.
Hey, you're late!
I know, Dad. I'm sorry. I just lost track of time.
How do you lose track of the sun?
Well, actually, we were inside mostly.
Inside? Whose house was it? I want to know who to call.
It wasn't anyone's house.
Then where were you?
You're not gonna believe me, but we found a real-life gingerbread house in the woods.
What?
There was even a gingerbread man living inside it. We asked if we could play in his house and he said we could, but only has his fairies. So, we dressed up as fairies and then played inside for like 3 hours.
And during all this time, you didn't think to look at your phone even once?
Well, the gingerbread man said fairies aren't supposed to have phones.
You're getting too old to be this bad at lying. Just get inside before you freeze to death.
Obviously, the whole gingerbread bullcrap seemed a little far-fetched. Over the course of the rest of the night, I pressed her about it, yet she stuck to her guns. Eventually, I just went along with it, but it never sat right with me. I just didn't want it to blow up into a whole thing she would end up hating me forever for. The very next evening though, when she brought it up again, I was not going to let it slide. Interestingly, she told me about it beforehand as if she was asking for permission to go to this alleged gingerbread house. Even though it was a little later than I usually let her go out, I decided to agree to it, just to see where it led. When she left, I secretly followed her. At first, she went down the same old path towards the neighbors, but after she met up with her friends, they took an odd turn. It was down a trail that I was not familiar with. It became narrower as the evening turned darker. Then suddenly, the girls stopped. Quickly, I hid behind a tree before they spotted me. When they started talking again, I took a peek, and sure enough, in spite of everything I was thinking, there was an honest-to-God, real-life gingerbread house right there, in the middle of the woods, 10 feet off the ground, but built like something straight out of a fairy tale. I couldn't believe my eyes, but my astonishment was far from over. Standing up under the house, the girls dragged a box into the open. From it, they pulled out cheap fairy costumes and put them on. Then, they started climbing up the ladder to the entrance. I couldn't get a good look at them from the ground, but someone opened the door for them. Then they disappeared inside. At this point, I was so freaked out. I felt like I didn't have a choice but to see what was going on in there. So I got out from my hiding spot and started making my way up. As I climbed the ladder, I could hear the girls cheering and shrieking like they were playing, but there was another voice in there, and for the first time, I started to think this gingerbread man might actually be real. However, once I got up on the porch and peered through the window, I saw a very different sight. It was but one tiny room, covered wall to wall in photos of girls just like my own. She and her friends were standing in the center of the room in their fairy outfits, not standing but posing for someone in the corner. And who else could it have been but a fat old man in a dingy gingerbread costume, taking pictures of them. When I realized what had truly been happening the whole time, I lost control and attacked the bastard.
You piece of shit! Stop! Stop! It's just pictures! That's bullshit! I'll kill you!
Once I exhausted myself beating the brakes off that sick freak, I used my last remaining energy to restrain him until the police arrived. It only took them one look to know what was up. Then they arrested him. He was charged and convicted, but probably for only a fraction of the despicable things he did in that so-called gingerbread house. I'm glad that man's horrible trap is no longer endangering anyone, but I just wish it could have been stopped before my daughter got caught up in it. Till this day, I wish I could have kept her away from ever going in there. A secret gingerbread house deep in the forest sounds like something from a fairy tale, but investigators in Seattle say the one they found was anything but. Now, 56-year-old Daniel Wood faces charges of possession of content of young individuals. An employee for Washington's Natural Resources discovered bedding, food, and a large amount of disturbing explicit content in the treehouse cabin in the Baker Snoqualmie National Forest. This set off a months-long investigation that eventually led to Wood. Forest Service employees had known about the treehouse for about 7 years, but nobody knew exactly who had built it. The last time it had been inspected was nearly 3 years ago. Apparently, it looked like a gingerbread house on the outside. The cabin was dark brown in color and built approximately 8 feet off the ground. There was a porch around the structure, a front door, and windows on the side, as well as a pitched roof and a ladder from the ground to the porch. But when the employee looked inside, he found something startling. On all 4 walls were framed pictures of fairy-like figures, or of what appeared to be younger individuals. The employee took some of the photos to show to law enforcement, and then returned with a detective who then found an envelope that contained more disturbing images, along with an SD card uncovering even more images on it. Eventually, investigators were able to match Wood's DNA to samples collected from a paper cup found in the cabin. Woods was charged accordingly.